having the peers that are almost in the same position as you are, going through the same struggles and learning and doing it and failing it and doing it again, I think that was the game changer, I would say.
Welcome to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of wholesaling and house flipping businesses. The systems and automation that we discuss will help you build a real business instead of another job for yourself. From beginners to those doing hundreds of thousands a year, we go deep into the details and strategies that are working today. And now your host, Bill Allen.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast. This is Bill Allen, and today I've got a little bit different podcast for you guys. So I had one of our seven-figure runway members. So you guys know the old six-figure flipping group. We kind of renamed the six-figure flipping and seven-figure flipping group recently into the seven-figure runway and seven-figure altitude. So one of our runway members was messaging me yesterday and asking me some questions and just kind of talking about having some questions and some things in his mind about his business. And I said, you know what? I said, look, I'm willing to get on a call with you, but we're going to put it on the podcast. So reluctantly, I kind of pushed and I said, look, if you want to talk with me for a little while, that's fine. But my time is super limited now. And what I really do is the questions he was asking and some of the things that he was saying, they just struck me where I was a few years ago. And I know that I said to him, I said, more people need to hear this conversation than just me and you. And it's not because I don't want to have this conversation over and over again. It's not because I don't want to get on a call with someone. It's just the fact that I feel like even those of you who are not in our mastermind groups, you're not in the runway group or the altitude group or involved with us at all, but just listen to the podcast. This is something that you need to hear in your business right now. I'm telling you. And we need to, even if you're not in the real estate business, you need to hear it because I've been down this road a ton of times. So today, what we're going to do, we'll get some background on this guy. We'll talk a little bit about his business, treat it like the podcast at the beginning, and then we're going to transition to him asking me some questions and things like that he wants to know about his company. Because basically, just background for you guys, he said that I'm in the runway group. I started hiring people. I put it all in since Flip Hacking Live last year and then this year, and I just feel like I need something. I need something and some guidance. And he said, I'm going to be in the altitude group very soon. So this is kind of the push that he had, and I wanted to jump on this call. So we're just going to air it right on the podcast. We're just going to jump into it like it's a podcast, and then we'll save kind of the second half to any questions that he has, almost like a coaching call a little bit. So, okay, Mr. E-Class Mercedes himself. So before we were getting on the call, I was like, how do I, and if you guys are watching it on video, if you're on our YouTube channel, the Seven Figure Flipping YouTube channel, those numbers and letters under his name are not his real name. That would be something I can definitely not pronounce. But this is one of our members, Yhlas Kuliev. Did I say that right? The last name?
You nailed it. Yes.
Oh, yes. Awesome. So when you see the spelling of his name in the email, that's E-Class Mercedes. So he was kind of joking about the Mercedes thing before. Would you say you're more of a Lamborghini kind of guy?
Well, I'm more of a Toyota kind of guy, but the easiest way to remember my name is think of it as a car, like an E-Class. Yeah. Awesome.
So I nailed it first time. So, okay. Tell us a little bit about you, about your business, kind of like your background in your kind of full-time job, and then your transition to real estate a little bit, just to give us an idea of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in real estate business prior to attending Flip Hacking Live on as a hobby, landlord, buying and selling real estate, mostly for buy and hold reasons, and then occasional flips. I'm employed full-time. I've been employed in a professional services organization, a consulting company. I've got several degrees, and I'm currently employed for a big IT company.
Okay, so what kind of degrees? You got a couple degrees, you got a PhD or something like that?
I've got a degree in accounting. I'm a CPA. I'm not a CPA by profession. I'm also in IT, and I'll also do IT, like IT management, cybersecurity, for a full-time job.
Okay, nice. And how long have you been doing that for?
For about over a decade now.
Okay, and when did you get into real estate? Tell us a little bit about kind of how you got into real estate, what it looked like.
I got into real estate because when I was in college, preparing and studying for my CPA, I've seen the kind of wealth that real estate can generate for people because I was doing some of the high-end clients' taxes, see their financial statements. That's prior to starting my career in IT. So that's got me really, really interested in real estate. I know what real estate can do in terms of magnifying the wealth, if you will. A lot of people, especially high end, high income people, do invest heavily in real estate. That's not necessarily the only avenue. They have multiple streams of income, but real estate is absolutely one of them that I've seen. So so real estate has been really kind of passion of mine. And then of course the TV shows that I've been watching, I like to build, I like to design things, and I like to see the final product versus when you're living in a big corporate world, you don't necessarily get involved with the final product. That the product is kind of removed from you, especially as you work in the large organizations, right? But with the real estate, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can see the final product, and that piece really excited me. So that's how I got started in real estate.
When was that?
So I started close to 2013, I'd say. So bought one house, then bought a second house. Then I thought I knew what I'm doing because I'm doing pretty well. Got myself into big trouble. Bought another house where I lost money. But it was all it's basically. Now that I think about it, the reason why it was happening because I wasn't really focused on it as a business. I was looking at it as a side income because, having a full-time job really makes you feel secure because we get paid very well as IT professionals, and part of it was really treating as a more like a hobby and less like a business, if you will. And then,
so before you move on, let's talk about that house that you lost money on. So what were some of the issues that came up? Like, why do you think that happened? Just give a, broad idea of why you were losing money there.
I feel like having the right focus and doing the right steps as you go through this was a rehab. So we bought a house in auction steps. We did not, it was a sweet deal on the numbers. Looking at the numbers, the purchase price, the rehab, and the exit price looked very attractive. What I failed to do, and because of the high competition, of course, I slightly overpaid for the house. That's number one. Number two, we bought the property sight unseen, which means we didn't do the proper inspections of the house. So day one, when we started construction, we started doing the demo and we started peeling parts of the house away. And it turns out that the house was parts of the house was completely eaten away by termites. And then more to the story, some parts of the foundation was also crumbling. So that was a big aha. Like looking at it now, it sounds so simple, right? Like go do an inspection. Like, don't just jump in a house, do the inspection, go to the proper steps. Looking at it now, it sounds so simple. Back then, I almost felt like I know what I'm doing. This is easy. Let's go. Let's do it. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we got into my first mess that I created with the.
And so, how much money did you lose on that house? Do you remember?
Close to $70,000.
Close to 70? 70?
70. It could have been a lot more. I met some good people along the way who helped me. I put a lot of my own time into designing and doing some of the construction work, et cetera, et cetera. And also I met a lot of knowledgeable people that kind of guided me along the way. So we're able to minimize the loss to 70,000. It could have been a whole lot more. I tell you that.
Wow. And so that meeting those people and getting that experience probably helped you in the future not make those same mistakes again, right?
I will never make the same mistake again. Okay. Yes.
So, I shared at Flip Packing Live this year the $70,000 house that I lost money on too. And against, people who were way more knowledgeable than me, I did what it sounds like. You get this false sense of security, right? You get this idea that you're like Superman and everything you touch turns to gold because you've had a lot of success in the past from houses. And this is the same thing happened to me. I look through this kind of money-making lens. It was a bigger house. It had, it needed a lot more detailed features. The buyer pool was much smaller in my city in Pensacola, Florida. There's not a lot of people that are buying a $700,000 house. So the showings were very spread out. The price drops on a house like that's that expensive in our area, it's got to be really big. You can't drop the price $10,000 and think that it's going to be efficient drops. You're talking about $50,000 price drops. And so from what was about to be a six-figure profit for me became a $70,000 loss. And there's a lot of other things that went on that I talked about, but I feel like it sounds a lot like that, where I got I got a little bit cocky. I thought I knew what I was doing. And I decided to skip some of the details and the steps. And you almost like don't see those recommendations that people are giving you. You don't see the things that you would normally see. You're looking through like goggles that are, foggy, and all you see is the money. So it sounds like that. So, okay. I don't think we mentioned where you are. Like, where are you doing this? What part of the country?
So I started investing in the Bay Area, California. And then I expand into Sacramento market, surrounding areas, Yuba County, El Dorado County, and Sacramento County, and Placer County. So within 50 miles of Sacramento area.
Cool. Okay. So then you got this, you lost a bunch of money, $70,000 on this house, usually when most people quit, and you said, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going. Is that right?
That's exactly what happened. Correct.
Okay.
The good thing is the house that I flipped, the project that we did right before that one, we did make close to $130,000. So the fact that I lost 70 was a big lesson, but call it a beginner's luck. I think the profit that I made in that first house really helped me carried me through the more of a tougher times, if you will.
Okay. And so this was around 2013, 2014, something like that. And then where'd you go from there?
Correct. So I continued to acquire rental properties. I bought a rental property. I still hold, knowing myself, maybe call it bias, but I feel like if the house makes sense and it's a good rental, I typically try to keep all my rentals. That's really, I look at it as a retirement plan. I look at it as my exit strategy, maybe exit strategy for my 8 to 5, and further. This could be also something that will live to my daughter. When she's graduating high school, she's going to go to college. We're going to have enough funds, accumulated, right, through real estate to be able to afford her degrees. And this is more than just a retirement per se.
Awesome accountant answer, right? So lots of different streams of income, different things. You got a full-time job, you got these deals that make sense. I don't want to get too far down into like how you're financing them, all that stuff for the buy and holds. But so you started kind of buying and holding some properties, and did you keep flipping as well?
Correct. Whenever the time afforded me outside of my full-time job, we've primarily focused on keeping houses rentals, but I've done maybe one or two flips a year. So that's about it. Not more than that, because these projects, would take a lot of my own time. On the average, time to market from acquisition to sales, we've significantly shrunk that time since, and we'll get to that later in the podcast. But it would take me close to 6 months to get the project completed. So having the enough financing available, plus experience, plus, having the right staff on board, all of that, of course, accumulates to more and more time being added into the final product deliverable. So I could only do one flip, maybe 2 a year prior to that.
So you did this for about 6 or 7 years. So doing
Correct.
kind of 1 a year or 2 a year, like one every 6 months. So this sounds very similar to my story for the 2 years before I joined Seven Figure Flipping. Actually, I was doing it all myself. I was doing all my trying to find my subs and contracting it, like being basically the general contractor and finding the project. And then I would find one and I would buy it and I'd start working on it. And I'd stop looking for another one. And then when I got finished 4 months later or so, 5 months later, I'd lift my head up out of this fog of doing all this work and look around and go, wow, okay, I don't have another deal in the pipeline. I have no idea what I'm going to do next. And then frankly, I had to sell that house to use the money to get to the next deal too. So it's usually about 6 to 8 months. And then it would take me another 6 months to find the next project. And so it was the same thing, 1 a year, because I was kind of doing it all myself. Is that what you saw, that change now where you're able to do a little, and I had a full-time job too, by the way. I was flying airplanes for the Navy, and I was kind of finding all that time on the side and in between and just I was putting in two full-time jobs effectively.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities the way you described and how you operated your quote unquote business. And back then, right, it was definitely, it wasn't even a startup. It was kind of a hobby for me at that time. It wasn't really anything structured. So yeah, I think you're spot on in your description.
Yeah, I called it a side hustle. The thing was, my side hustle made me 40,000 a year, and it sounds like you were getting 130,000 out of a project, so it's not too bad, I guess. So what made you kind of shift into that mindset of changing what you were doing for the last 6 or 7 years to where you want to go now?
Uh, Big part of it was the Flip Hacking Live. So my first Flip Hacking Live was last year in 2018, and that event really, well, what led to it is really the podcast. So I was listening to multiple podcasts. I always look for material to develop myself, how I can do better. Of course, the biographies and stories people tell are very motivational. Yeah, that got me thinking. If someone can do it, then you could do it, right? If so, Flip Hacking Live really opened my mind and perspective into. I think the big theme in 2018 was hiring out and systems and processes, and that really pushed me to think in terms of creating a team, removing myself, eventually from a business, looking at it as an operator more so than a technician, and all of that, all these major themes that we talked about in 2018. It was really pushed me to think slightly differently into if you really want to grow, there's certain things that you have to do. You cannot operate in isolation and grow a successful business by yourself. Absolutely, I just cannot see that happening.
So did you go into that event as kind of a little bit skeptical about who this, so you heard it on the podcast, that's how you found out about Flip Hacking Live, and then you just bought a ticket, came down to the event in San Diego, 2018?
Yes, correct. Yeah, the bigger story was, how do these people flip so many houses? They don't even see their final result. Like, this is almost sounds too good to be true. And then there's a lot of stories out there. There's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of, there's a lot of motivational events. And this is what I've seen in Flip Hacking Live. That was very unique in a way, because the material is very authentic. People that were on stage, they were actually running $1 million businesses. They're real businesses, real people, and that was really eye-opening for me. Like, this is real. So if these guys are doing it, I have no excuse. I have to go and start. That maybe an immigrant in me, I have no excuse. I have to go and do it. That was really what I took from the 2018 event. And so I started. You want to get into the
well, before we do, I want to mention that you said, if these guys can do it, it sounded too good to be true, because I remember when I was listening to the podcast and I joined Seven Figure Flipping, I didn't talk to anybody. I heard the podcast talking about it when it was just getting created. I heard them interviewing a couple people who were joining the group, and I was listening to their story going, man, if these guys can do it, I can do it. And I kind of listened to Justin at the time, just go, it sounds like this guy can't even screw in a light bulb, and he's flipping 150 houses a year. So what excuse do I have not to do that? I obviously think of myself. At that time, I was swinging a hammer. I was running electrical in the houses. I was doing tile. I was going, I can do all the things that he's saying he can't do. So why can't I do it? But the thing is, my mind was screwed up. I could not see the way that he saw things and these other guys saw things. They saw a team and building out systems and process and procedures around it so they don't have to be involved. And I didn't think like that at all. It was just all me. I was carrying all the weight on my shoulders. I was doing all the heavy lifting. And I thought that was the way that it was. I mean, I thought that's the way that business is until I got involved in. And so I said, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to invest in myself and bet on myself. And that's ultimately what led me on my path, which sounds very similar to yours. Actually, we have a lot in common now that we kind of break it down and start talking about this. Although so before we move on, you said you emigrated here to the U.S. from where? And how old were you? Were you born here, or were you born somewhere else?
No. I was so I've traveled before. Many places before I arrived to, United States. But I was born in a country called Turkmenistan, which is, back then there was no such country. It was part of the whole USSR, the Eastern Bloc, call it the Soviet Union, or it was one of the many countries that were formed right after the collapse of the Eastern Bloc. So so I came in here in 2001 for school, and I had partial family over here. So finished school like everybody else, found a good paying job, and now I'm here.
Cool. It's funny because the last podcast that we put out was Marina Sood, who also came over here from a country, just a very similar story, just like and hearing like Val working with me now and her husband Andre, Val my lead manager and Andre the videographer for this company, just seeing the work ethic of some of the people who immigrated to this country from another country. It's really cool to see that. And so there's this theme kind of going at least on 2 podcasts in a row. We'll see who comes on next. But this is just, and you just mentioned it kind of under your breath a little bit, because I think that there is something there. And it's not just people who come from another country. It's the people who even are, American born. I was born here in the US, and I just work really hard, and I am dedicated and I'm committed, and I want to see success. Success is really important to me personally. And I was kind of brought up that way. So it's interesting to see the people that, there's a common theme in all of this. It's kind of the core values and who people are. And Marina got to the point where she was going bankrupt, had $100 to her name, like worried about where the next paycheck was going to come in the middle of her wholesaling business, and said, I'm just going to dig in deeper and make it work for me. And, a lot of people would quit at that time. A lot of people, when they lost $70,000, would quit. So really cool to kind of hear that. So, okay. So came to Flip Packing Live, saw that if other people can do it, they can do it. Authentic people, stuff like that. And I think the reason we talk about hiring and systems and processes is because that's what business is. We're trying to teach people how to run businesses, show them how we run our business so they can run a business too, that can operate with them or without them, whatever they choose. And they can run the kind of business that they want to. So that's probably the theme at every one that we do going forward, I see, with some different tweaks and different kind of concepts and ideas around it to help people build their business and really see it like a business, not the side hustle that you and I were running you were running for 6-7 years, me for at least, 2-3 years before we really got it together. So after that event, what happened? Did you just start hiring people like gangbusters and brought on 20 people and started running the company and it's successful, or what?
Yeah. So I thought after Flip Packing Live, so 2018, this is it. This is the answer. I just need to go and start hiring people. And that's what I did. I started doing it and hiring it and doing it and hiring. Although I've never hired anyone previously. So, through that process, I think I'm almost kind of a different person now looking at it, almost a year ago. Through that process, I made, some mistakes that we can, of course, get into. But I started, just like you said, gangbusters, hiring right and left and training and hiring and training, without really realizing, I've never done anything like that before, never built a business. So part of it, building a business is not just, the marketing, the sales, the acquisition, disposition, the operations, the, financial aspects of it, record keeping, KPIs. It's more broader than that. It's leadership. It's your communication style, and all of that. It just caught me for surprise. Let's just say my leadership got really, really tested. Like my skill set in terms of leadership got really tested after that. So, but yes, we started growing like crazy, hiring. Made some mistakes along the way, but that led us to even more of a leaner business this year than it was last year. But I'd like to think that we're the projectile is hopefully will be by the end of this calendar year, which is next calendar year. So business calendar, there's a calendar year and there's business fiscal year. So by the end of my fiscal year, I'll be joining the Altitude Group.
Okay. All right. So who were you hiring at that time? Was it just kind of VAs that you were hiring? What did it look like?
Anybody who I can. So I followed the advice and create a list, a task list of all the things that, that was a presentation in 2018, by the way, too, I think, is to create a task list of all the things that you do, look at your annual income and then, average it out, and whatever is below that average, try to, find a way to automate it, outsource it, do anything, but don't focus on these activities. Find somebody else who's better at it, or has time to do it, or is cheaper to do it, any of those. So I started focusing the number one thing, of course, the marketing is the lifeblood of the business. So I focused on marketing, creating, inbound, outbound calling, answering phone calls and things of that nature. So my first hires were offshore. I started with one, then I immediately grew to four, then I grew to six of people that I would just hand them off tasks. Again, with no plan. This is a task. I need you guys to go and do these tasks. So um, that was my initial hires.
Okay.
And
So
some of these guys are with me to this day. So we've gone through a big process of education, transformation, learning. I've been learning about them as much as they're learning about me. So communication was a big piece. The goals were a big piece. So we each have goals now. So I think that was a big piece from this year's event. I think Val mentioned that everybody in your company has a number. So that really resonated with me. That I absolutely have to do that if I want to run a business. There's just no, if there's no metrics, there's no, maybe it was even Mike Simmons's quote, if you're not keeping stats, how do you know you're winning, right? So that's where we are today. Now we're growing from me trying to do things to me by myself, then hire and let them do it and hire others to do it without even reviewing, right? Is it the right task? Is it the right person? Are they? So all of these things is, as an entrepreneur, you go through these transformation stages. So I feel like I'm kind of there, right? I'm seeing the trajectory of my business, but there's just so much more that needs to be done to really, dial things, operationally.
And so do you feel like your full-time job at this point is keeping you from doing a lot of those things that you need to be doing, or bringing on these people, has that freed you up to allow you to do some other things that you need to be doing?
I feel like in the beginning, bringing in people almost double my workload.
It does.
But now, right, it almost doubles in the beginning, right? And then it starts, the more you start systematizing things, it starts dropping over time. So I feel like I don't really focus on lead generation anymore myself. I know I don't worry about lead gen. I know I have a consistent income, consistent lead list. Like every day I can log into the CRM and I see the new lead come in. Like before that, I never thought that was possible. So yes, I am outsourcing a lot of the marketing piece. I'm not outsourcing the operational piece of it, or financial piece of it, or even project management or construction at this point. We're going to get there eventually. But yes, we're focusing on mostly the back office CRM, lead intake, outbound calling.
Okay, awesome. So I remember at the event that we had in Detroit, kind of looking at you and saying, look, you've got to figure out what your people are doing. You got to know what they're doing. You got to have a pulse on it. Are they following up with the leads, and being able to say who's performing and who's not performing, instead of just let them go do whatever they want to do, especially as VAs overseas. You're not checking in with them on a regular basis. You don't have the pulse on them. I could tell it was just a loosely run ship at that time, right? It was just kind of like, well, it seems to be working. And then for you too, was making sure that you're going out on all those appointments, that you're kind of going, I don't know, this appointment. Because I remember when it was me and I had a full-time job and I was doing the acquisitions, I said, I'm only going on hot leads. Like if they sound really hot on the phone, if it looks really good, big juicy spread, I'll go out on it. But otherwise, just, we'll follow up with them later. And for me, it just wasn't a good model. When I had an acquisitions rep come in and start going on those appointments, she was dropping contracts like crazy, because she just, and everybody else listening probably knows now, is just because they don't sound motivated on the phone doesn't mean they're not motivated. So that's what we were just assuming. And we were cutting like 75% of our possible income and possible contracts by just putting them into a non-motivated bucket and filtering for me. So you were doing one house a year for a long time. Did that change after Flip Hacking Live 2018? Did you start to do a lot more than that? Or what did that look like kind of numbers wise from that last year and then now?
So I didn't join our mastermind group immediately. So I only joined it in, when was the last? So it was a 6-figure flip mastermind. Prior to Detroit, I'd say maybe I joined in May of this year. So I started seeing the results maybe slightly after, right after that, right after I joined the the mastermind group.
Okay. So why is that? Like, why did you leave? You left Flip Packing Live 2018, said, I'm going to go do this on my own. I got all the information that I need. Really, why did it take that? What was it about that joining, then going to that event, doing those kind of things? Like, what was the difference between you doing it by yourself and you doing it with a little bit of support?
In terms of what pushed me to join the mastermind group?
No, why weren't you doing more after Flip Packing Live, putting all the systems and processes in place and hiring all the people? It sounded like you just said that leaving Flip Packing Live 2018, I didn't join the mastermind group until May, which is 7-8 months after Flip Packing Live. And then you saw results after that, after joining the mastermind group. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So, part of it was really joining the weekly calls, joining first of all, the training that the mastermind group provides was excellent.
So like the videos, courses and stuff like that to push people on, like that kind of stuff. The
videos were very helpful. I find ways to get educational materials. There's a lot of it out there, but videos were very aligned in a way that will basically help you progress from this is how you do marketing. It was very focused to the house flipping or wholesaling business. Now we have it structured slightly differently. Back then it was all lumped something together into one program, but it was very educational. Yes. But it wasn't the only part. I'd say it was the having the peers that are almost in the same position as you are, going through the same struggles and learning and doing it and failing it and doing it again. I think that was the game changer, I would say, versus me trying to read a book or learn things on my own, doing things on my own, learn how to hire people, learn how to structure things, learn how to build systems. You can learn all of that on your own. But when you're doing that with like-minded people in the same group, it elevates things to a different level.
Yeah, I had the same experience. For me, it was like I could read, and I did. I read every book. I would go to the library. I would check books out. I get audiobooks, all kinds of stuff. I just felt like there was so much noise in all of it. Like I couldn't really put together the path, the straight line path. My path looked like this drunken, crazy line going all over the place, just screwing up and getting back on track. And so it's just kind of shortcut the learning curve a little bit, just to be able to speed it up and also have support of those people who are, like you said, are in the same boat as you, or they were just there a couple months before and they can share that lesson learned of what not to do to save me from it. So, okay. So we got that. Okay. You joined the group, you started to kind of ramp up the business and things have changed recently. So this is kind of brings us up to today, to like that yesterday's message to me, it sounds like. So it's kind of like, hey, I know that I'm in the mastermind group, but I need some more like attention to me and my business. And I just feel like I need something. And so I asked, okay, what is it that you need? You feel like you need like somebody to help you directly one-on-one. What is it, do you think? And you said, well, it's kind of like I wish I had this in front of me. It's kind of like I don't know what I don't know to ask. It's somebody to give an audit of my business, right? So as a CPA, of course, now that I hear your background's an accountant, you're a CPA, you want an audit. And it's funny that you mentioned that because that's really what kind of triggered me to respond the way that I did to you of, okay, you think that you want an audit, but what's happening right now? And you said, you know what, things are actually going really good. I hired some people. I figured it out. It was with the support of the group. I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. I'm going to be in altitude soon. So like, I need help and an audit to figure out what I'm not doing. And that's what triggered me to respond the way I did. I said, okay, I've asked that same question. I've thought that same thing. And as an accountant and a CPA, it's funny because my story right now that I'm going to get on a soapbox for a minute and tell is it's about that. I've done my own taxes for almost my entire life. And it's probably 3 years ago is when I actually brought in somebody and hired somebody to do my taxes. And I've done solo 401ks. I've researched SEPs. I have figured out, like, do I pay my kids or not pay my kids? And how does all of this work? Is it self-directed IRAs? And everything about my taxes I've done since I was a kid. And I never wanted to give somebody else that. I had 10 rental houses at a time that I was keeping all the books on and making sure that the depreciation schedule looks good and everything. And I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA, but I read a bunch of books. And I didn't think that anybody would look at my stuff like I would, like actually own it and take care of it. So the first thing that I did where I said, okay, now I'm starting a business. I've got these employees. I got all this crazy stuff going on. It's outside of my expertise. It's too much for me. So what did I do? I did my taxes that last year, and then I hired, and I had a plan. I already structured my plan for the next year. I think it was 2017. And then I hired a guy, a consultant, a big CPA in the real estate world. A lot of people know who he is. He's on a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. So I hired him. I think I paid him like $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, something like that, to go in, and he's going to do my taxes the next year and go in and audit and come up with this like plan for me, right? He looked at my company, he looked at my tax returns from the year before and come up with this plan for me. How many things do you think are on his plan that weren't on my plan? Any idea? Take a guess. Come on. I'll give you a hint. None. Okay.
I was gonna say none.
But I'll tell you that, like, I had to pay a guy $10,000 to give me peace of mind. And just to say that what I was doing is right, it's working, it's correct, things like that. And he didn't end up doing my taxes the next year because I said, well, the service just wasn't that good and all this stuff. And so I went to somebody else. And the moral of this story, the reason I tell it's not that I'm an expert in tax or anything like that. It's just a lot of times what happens in us and entrepreneurs is we doubt ourselves. When we know the direction that we need to go, we know what we're doing is working. We're very good at it. We get these shiny objects. We listen to too many podcasts. I'll say that on a podcast. I should not say that, but we listen to all this noise out there of what other people are doing, the other things that are going on, instead of staying focused on where we are and what we need to do, and just make those little tweaks to keep us in our lane. The stuff that I was talking about, we have the straight line, we have the path of where we want to go, and we know it. And there's the mutual support and moral support that you have inside the mastermind group is enough for what you need. And so a lot of times we think that there's some magic silver bullet out there. There's this thing that somebody's doing that they'll see if they look in our business, and we're not going to see it. And a lot of times, and if you listen to Marina's podcast, I mean, we haven't released it yet while we're recording this, but what I said to her at the end of the podcast was, it's very obvious what's happened with you. I can see the difference. I've known her for a few years. I can see it now. She is confident in herself. She knows that what she's doing is the right direction, and she is blowing up her business. She's doubling her business because of that, because she's confident, and she knows that when she makes a decision, it's right. Like, be comfortable with it. Be comfortable in your own skin. And that's what I've learned over these past few years of hiring consultants, bring them in. Now, if it's a little 5 or 10% tweak that's going to change the games, like right now, I have an accountant, a CPA, who does my taxes. Him and I meet every quarter, and we talk about strategy and things like that. Because a 5 or 10% tweak in a $3 million company is pretty big. And he knows a lot of the local franchise and excise tax here in Tennessee, and a lot of the other things that I don't know about. And what we do is we kind of mastermind together, because I found somebody who I feel like is on the same level as me. Whereas before, it just seemed like everybody that I would go talk to, they didn't understand what I was trying to accomplish, and they just didn't know my life, and they didn't take the time to get to know it. So I say all that because I think for you, what you're doing, you just told me in that conversation that I'm doing so much better. Like, I feel really confident in the direction I'm going, the trajectory of all it. All you need, and what I hope you get on this call, is that confidence that what you're doing is right. So you can leave this call and just go dump gasoline on that fire that you're creating. So, okay. So with all that said, I'm off my soapbox now. It's happened in my business too. That's what this mastermind group is. That's why I said, go find a peer in the group or somebody who's ahead of you, who is just willing to jump on a call and brainstorm, because you're going to teach them some stuff. They're going to teach you some stuff. And that's what this group's all about. So, okay. What do you have for me? Just hit me with questions, with whatever you want. Where are you at? Or a rebuttal from that.
No, absolutely. I think you summarized it really, really well. So I don't even know where to begin with this, but so building a business requires a lot of broad range of skill set, and being part of a mastermind group is almost irreplaceable, right? It should be one of the most important tools that you have in your toolbox as a real estate entrepreneur, as a real estate investor. Um, and accountability is a big piece of it, right? The fact that we have accountability groups, we state our goals, our dreams, all of that on paper, all of that in front of everybody in our little groups, and that really helps us stay focused, right? There's one thing that you mentioned about mindset, and I think mindset is a big piece of the puzzle. Absolutely. There's also pieces of the there's things that there's known knowns, and there's also unknown unknowns in the business. Mm-hmm. And what I was trying to focus on, when I messaged you yesterday, having a coaching call like this from somebody who's been there and done that and several steps ahead of you really helps you identify your blind spots, right? So they can be honest with you because they're not personally vested in the specific outcome of the business. So they can tell you what your strengths or weaknesses are, kind of like from an elevated perspective. And that was really one of the reasons why I asked you if how would you approach the topic of coaching, because mastermind group is absolutely irreplaceable in my opinion in this business. Secondly, what are your opinion on coaching?
So if I'll go back to the podcast that I just did, we did this leadership series, and the EOS coach that we have. So EOS is Entrepreneur Operating System. It's from the book Traction. Gino Wickman wrote a book called Traction. A lot of people have read it, and it's what we operate our business off of. You actually quoted it, maybe not without even knowing it, but everybody has a number. That's from EOS. So Val did say that in her presentation. That is an EOS like mantra, right? Everybody has a number. Everyone inside the organization has a number. We keep a scorecard. The KPIs are called scorecard in EOS, rocks, all of these different things. 1-year target, 3-year targets, 10-year targets, the VTO, all of these things. So in that podcast with Dan Coleman, who just came in and started working with us from our EOS system, is everybody needs a coach, a peer-to-peer network, and operating off of system. He talked about these 3 legs of a stool, right? So you need a coach. And for us, we have coaches in the form of CPAs. Like my CPA is absolutely a coach in that world. We have him, our EOS like business consultant coach, right? And then we also have our mastermind group, our peer-to-peer network, which is irreplaceable, right? So I absolutely think this is a piece of the stool that you need at some point. And the reason I said to you what I said was, I feel like there's someone inside the group that can absolutely give you what you need right now until you're ready for that next level. So what I don't want to see you guys do is go out and spend a bunch of money on kind of like a business coach. And what I see a lot of times is somebody says it's this or that, not this and that, because that's it. If all we did was hire an EOS coach in our business and not have anybody to bounce off strategies, ideas in the business, in the real estate business, like peer-to-peer network, we would have trouble. We would have a problem. And if we didn't go hire an EOS coach and just try to self-implement, we did that. We self-implemented for a while. Then we hired somebody, came in for about a year. And then we said, okay, we want actually to go pure EOS, just bring on somebody who's an EOS consultant or coach. And they came in. So for us, we've constantly been adding those coaches as we can afford them, right? As it makes sense. Same thing with we have a hiring coach. We have a guy who does this, these personality profiles, and we run things by him and say, hey, you're the expert on this. We want to bring in this job role. We've never hired for this before. What do you think this should look like? This is what we think it should look like, a personality profile. What do you think? And then when I got somebody when I was hiring for my personal assistant right now, I said, hey, can you get on a call with her and actually an interview her a little bit? And if he wasn't in the mountains motorcycling for like a week and out of touch, then he would have. So I just hired her anyway. But that's the kind of stuff that we have. I could probably name 5 or 6 coaches that we hire inside the company, or me personally. For me, I wanted to go lose weight. I hired a nutrition coach. It was not a lot of money. It was very affordable, but I found the right person for me. So I absolutely think that's necessary also. Now, the reason my feedback to you is, being a Runway member and being where you guys are, that could be an investment that you want to make in your world. It might not. So that's kind of the pushback that I was giving you, is really think about what you're looking for from that coach and then determine what it is. So if it's like a personal coach that you need, the personal business coach that's going to give you something, and sometimes it is just that. Like sometimes it is just the confidence that you are going the right direction. But what you need to be careful of is that you're bringing in the right person into your world too. It's not just anybody. So there's a lot of like free coaches out there, free business coaches and things like that have some upsells and things, and they don't really understand the industry. They don't know where you want to go. So it's kind of like that, Cheshire Cat quote. It's like, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So really understanding the destination and where you want to go before you bring that person in. So for us, I know that EOS is the way that we want to go in our business. So we wanted the best, like pure EOS coach out there. And I had to go track him down and convince him to get on an airplane to fly out to Nashville because he doesn't get on airplanes. And we hired him. And so the same thing with our kind of culture index kind of personality coach. We went out and got him. It's not cheap either. So all the people that we bring into our network and who it is, and same with my CPA, I kind of over 3 years stepped up into the guy that I'm with right now because he's a great fit for me and where I am in my lifestyle. I wouldn't have been able to afford him before, and it wouldn't have made sense for me to do. So I absolutely think it's needed, but my pushback to you and a lot of people that are just getting going, you need all three. And that's the hard part, because when you bring in all three, I think the start is probably that mastermind group. I really do. I think you need that peer-to-peer network first, because they can be the coach. They can show you the system. They can bring a lot of that stuff in, and then you can start expanding. I've had a lot of people that are renewing with us as members and saying, I think I'm going to do this instead of the mastermind group. And they're talking about like the personality profile stuff. They think that's the magic bullet. Well, it's not. With just that, you're going to be lopsided in that stool that Dan talked about, right? You're only going to have one leg. You're going to be kind of balancing on that and very easily to tumble over. With this strong foundation of everything that you have, you need to build off of that. And that's one of the reasons why I started dropping the price in the mastermind group year over year, because I want people to stay. I want them to renew, because I know that they need this. Like, this is the network that you need. So anyway, I'm not selling mastermind groups on this podcast right now. So, but my answer to you is, I think it's absolutely needed. But my challenge to you is to say, do you already have this in the network that we have? Can you reach out and grab it? And maybe, I'll tell you what, your question to me made me start thinking about, how do we build maybe a little mentorship program in here, where you've got Runway members and Altitude members and Seven Figure Club members. You've got people that want to give back, that are going to get something from you. You're doing something that somebody that's ahead of you needs to hear about one-on-one. So maybe it's something that we can do inside this group, and I'm going to bring it back to my team and say, hey guys, challenge, this is probably something that might be needed here, and could be effective inside of here. We're not going to be, selling one-on-one coaching or anything like that, because I think this is a mastermind group, and that's what it needs to be. But there's probably an area for us to get a little bit better on the mentorship side. And we do the coaching calls and things like that, but they're group calls and stuff. And you're looking for somebody who knows your business, understands that, and is a neutral third party who can come in and hold up the mirror to you and say, and that's what our EOS coach does. He comes in, he doesn't know anything about real estate, doesn't know any of that stuff. He knows business. So he just says, hey, I coach 15 other companies at a very high level. This is what some other people are doing. You guys might want to think about this with your people, with your accountability chart, with the process, with the procedures, all that stuff. So is that the answer you wanted?
That was a lot, but I think the way you summarize it and the way I think I presented my question, I think we're almost talking about the same thing in different words. So absolutely makes sense. The way I'm approaching my business right now is, similar. I'm not quite there from a maturity perspective, right, where my business is at the moment. So we don't need an EOS coach at the moment, because we don't need it. We're not there yet. Maybe next year, maybe 2 years from now. But I am looking at hiring industry experts, if you will, right? Into, let's say, if I need a marketing guy to come in and teach my acquisition team on certain sales aspects of it, or things like that. Absolutely, yes. And then the overall business coach perspective, EOS might be the answer. Unfortunately, I think the way where my business is at the moment, it would be money not very well spent, because we're just not ready for it. But you brought in a really good point. I think this is a really interesting discussion on the mentorship piece of it overall. So I'm really looking forward to see what what's going to come out of this. Of course, there's no promises or anything like that, but it's I think mastermind is absolutely irreplaceable, right? It's huge. Mentorship has a role to play in the development of the business. So definitely something to think about. Yeah.
Obviously, my goal is to figure out how to make sure that this thing is almost all encompassing, right? Like as an owner now of a mastermind group that I took ownership of a few months ago, it's how do I make sure that my clients feel like they're getting as much as they can from that? And so with the accountability, with the coaching calls, with the peer-to-peer network, the Facebook groups, with the meetings, the quarterly meetings where we all get together and talk. And, obviously we can't do everything. So I absolutely think there's no replacement for that kind of one-on-one coaching and trying to figure out how, and ultimately what it comes down to is the way that I looked at the mastermind group was I always had these board of directors around me. So I had like a couple of people for me that were very close to me that I got to know inside the group. And those were my kind of mentors and coaches together at the same time, So I would call them up and bounce things off of. So I feel like a lot of times when the problem that we run into sometimes as a mastermind group is you feel a little bit disconnected from the crowd or the group, or you don't have those 2 or 3 people that you really know each other. You really know their business. And so that's the challenge that I'll give you inside the group right now for what you've already paid for, is to really find that person and post in the group and say, hey guys, I feel like I really need this right now. Is anybody willing to do that? And that was kind of what the recommendation that I gave you, and not feel like there's any, because we have the great thing about the Runway group is we have a lot of altitude members in the Runway group that want to give back, that are ahead of you guys. And they're in there just answering questions, and they're constantly at Flip Packing Live. I had probably 10 people come up to me and say, hey man, I feel like the last year I just didn't give enough. I just want to make an impact. I want to give more. So I'm going to jump in that group and just give as much as I can. I'm sure you see Tyler Jensen in there all the time now, right? He was the guy backstage who just said, hey, Bill, I don't know what it looks like, but I really want to get involved. I just feel like I want to give back more and more. And I feel like I have a lot to give right now. And so there's people absolutely that are current members that are wanting to do stuff like this. So that's my challenge to you, is to jump in there, post something and say, hey, because a lot of times what happens is we don't want other people to know that we need extra help. Because and maybe you're not like that. I see you shaking your head a little bit, but I am. I don't want to raise my hand a lot of times and say, hey, I'm struggling. I need help. And that's the challenge that I've seen in a mastermind when everybody's talking about all their wins and how awesome they're doing. I feel like that's changed a lot inside the group now. A lot of people are talking about their struggles and some losses and things like that. And other people can learn from it. So it's not as rampant as it was before, but we're all kind of mostly type A driver type people who just want to win. And a lot of times it's really hard for us to say, hey, I need some help. Is anybody willing to get on a call with me? Or does anybody want to do just a weekly call or a monthly call where you get to know my business, I get to know yours. And we just kind of hold up mirrors to each other to say, hey, I think you should be doing this, and you might be missing the mark here. But a lot of times my challenge is for you guys is to figure out how to utilize this group to the max extent possible, and then figure out where to spend some money outside of that if you need to. And that, even then, if you feel like that's happening, like you did, come to me and say, hey, I think there's an opportunity here for us to be better, because that's what I care about. I want you guys to have everything that you need right here, whether it's whatever it is. Obviously we can't do everything. So I'm not going to overpromise and underdeliver. I'd rather do the exact opposite for everyone. So, okay. So what questions you got? Like a list of questions? You got anything else you want to ask me, or that was it?
No, that was it.
That was it.
I did not realize it's a very, very healthy discussion. And I hope this discussion is going to benefit a lot of people who's going to listen to it. Definitely a lot to think about, particularly when you go to the growth stage. Well, there's a lot to take in, right? There's different pieces of a company, and you're kind of juggling it all at the same time. So, and this is one of the reasons why I asked the question on the coaching, whether it's outside coaching, inside coaching. But so this is really, really helpful. Absolutely. I don't really have any like a long list of questions. I do have a long list of questions, but they'd probably be outside of the scope of our conversation.
So I think before we go, what I want to point out to everybody is exactly how you feel right now. I have felt that way, and everybody on this call feels like that. You're running a company. You're probably the only owner. You don't have a business partner to bounce things off of where you actually like coach each other, right? And you're a one-man show. You've got a couple employees who you absolutely can't have this conversation with about, hey, am I doing the right thing? Is this right? Are we going the right direction? Are my goals clear? Like, what is it? So I felt exactly the same way as you do. And I know how you feel because I was there in 2017, I think it was 2017, somewhere around there, where I was starting to kind of grow my company. And I utilized the mastermind group for this. So for exactly what you're looking for, I would constantly be putting my information up in the Facebook group. I would constantly be asking questions. And then at the meetings, I would make sure that I got my time and I asked people, I said, hey, look, I'm doing this, this, and this. What do you do? Or when they were doing something, I say, why are you doing that? And just constantly just tweaking things inside the business, but also getting that moral support of just knowing that I'm rowing in the right direction. I'm not completely off. So a lot of times it's self-doubt that is causing this. And you're getting to the point where you're going, okay, I'm making a lot of changes. I feel confident in it. But like you said, what are my blind spots? What am I missing? What am I not doing? But instead of doing that, like I think from the mindset piece that just I want to cover for the people that are listening, we can't focus on what we're not doing. We just need to double down on what we are doing that we think is the right direction, and we know, like we have a really good idea of the direction that we need to go. So if you spend 25% of your energy looking in your blind spots, thinking about what you're not doing, what questions don't I know how to ask? And that is the number one thing that I see the runway people and the people at Flip Hacking Live ask me is, I don't even know the right question to ask. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not sure where I need to go or what I'm missing, what's going on. If you know your destination, you know what you want to do, you know where you want to go, you have goals, you have plans, you have a team now, you have processes, you know leads are showing up, you know what you need to work on, you know what you're good at, what you're weak at, and all of those things in the business. You know the direction you're going. All you're looking for is a little bit of validation, and that's okay. So that could be a quick video in the Facebook group and say, hey guys, I'm doing this, this, and this. Does anybody see any holes in this plan? Or, hey, I'm about to roll out this marketing plan. And this is like, here's my card. Here's my list. Here's all this stuff. Can anybody give me feedback on that? Am I anything I'm missing? And I'll tell you what, if you got 6 people in a row who are like, man, that looks great. It looks great. I did the same thing. I got great success. I did this. Or, hey, you might be missing something here. That's the way to utilize this group and this board of directors, and tag the people that you're really interested in hearing feedback from. But I feel like a lot of times we spend so much time focused on the what ifs, instead of just being confident and doing it. And all it is self-doubt. It's a mindset problem. And believe me, I was there. I still have it from time to time. I still am not sure. Like I had 3 months to plan for Flip Hacking Live this year. I had 3 months to put that together. Basically didn't sleep, but I wasn't really sure how it was going to go over. I wasn't sure how we were going to deliver. I was like, what am I missing? What did I forget? What if people don't show up? What if I'm kind of like looking behind the curtain in the morning, how many people checked in the night before? So all of that stuff, we always have that little bit of doubt. If you don't have that doubt, you are a narcissist. Okay. You are everybody has it. And the problem is we just can't dwell on it. We have to focus 100% or 110% going in the direction while just checking our blind spots every now and then, because in that area, that's where innovation lives. That's where the new ideas, the new things live that we could try to test out. So we're constantly testing out something we're unsure of while doing the 90% of what we know works, and we'll bring something else in. So I've talked about this a few times, probably months ago, where we've brought in different marketing channels. We brought in different ideas. A lot of them have crashed and burned. We've lost tens of thousands of dollars trying new stuff. And we do that for you guys, for all the people in the mastermind group. If it works, hey, look what we did. Here you go. This is making us 10 to 1 on our money. You guys should go try it in your markets and test it out. So, but if you spend too much time in those blind spots, too much time in that innovation world, you get in this loop, right? So focus on what's working. Try to remove as much self-doubt as possible. Get some validation from inside the mastermind group. And then when it's time to hire a coach and spend some money on that kind of one-on-one development or whatever it is, whether it's business to business like we have, everybody's pretty much a business coach for us, except for my nutrition guy. So, and then invest in that stuff when the time's ready. But what I don't want to see you guys do is kind of direct money away just for the validation stamp like I did. And sometimes you need it, but a lot of times you already have it in your life. Like if I don't know, I should have just brought my taxes to you and you could told me what
this is great, Bill. Appreciate it. A lot of golden nuggets in this conversation. So I really appreciate that.
Good. So, okay, there's our call. Anybody listening, I want you guys to remember what this is all about. Like the time that I feel like people struggle the most is when they have no idea what their destination is. They don't know what their goals are. They don't know what they want. Like we talked about, it's a side hustle. It's like, I'm going to try to make some money. And that's usually, people quit very easily on that. They're not committed. They're not all in. They got a plan B, C, and D. It's not just their plan A. And a lot of times it's just not going to work for them. And so for us, we're running businesses. We feel very confident about it. You want to get into the altitude group. You're committed to it. It's going to happen. I don't know what the rest of your plans are, but you know where you're going. And if hopefully just in seeing you and seeing the changes and the confidence in your messaging and things like that back and forth, you know the direction you're going. If you ever doubt yourself, drop it in the Facebook group, ask questions, reach out to some of the people that you've become close with at the mastermind groups, things like that. Obviously, send me something whenever you want, but I'm just going to challenge you. I'm going to push back. Like that's my job. And a lot of times I got people that reach out to me that want to join the mastermind group, right? And I say, look, if you can't make a decision, if it takes you 3 months to decide whether we should or should not join this group, then you're probably not going to be a very good fit inside this group. Like if we're running a business that's doing we have to be able to make decisions. You see value, you don't see value. Like I'm in or I'm out, and it's not to say people shouldn't check their options and weigh everything and do all those things. But I mean, come on, you've got to make a decision. And the same thing here. It just comes down to the fact that you know where you want to go and you're going in that direction. So I wouldn't be a good mentor. A lot of times I say to them, it's like, I'm going to push you to join or not join. I'm just going to push you to make a decision. And the same for you. I'm going to push back. I'm not going to say, you absolutely need that. Or you don't need it right now. I don't think you need the validation. I'm validating you right now, the direction that you're going. You know what you're doing. I mean, I can see it in your message and all that stuff. So if you ever have any doubts, it's a mindset thing. And just think about it. Like, say, what would somebody else do? What should I do here? And if you need it, there's 20 other CEOs and visionaries inside the group that can look at your stuff and they will. And that's what I love about it is what, Mike Simmons, Andy McFarlane, these guys were Becca, Terry, Jeremiah, Adam. These are the guys that were right there with me. And anytime I needed something, I would hit them up. And these weren't paid people inside the group. These were my friends. These were other CEOs. These were other owners and people that I trust and that I believed in, that I knew that they would validate my decision if I needed it. And we would bounce ideas off of each other. So you got to find that little kind of core group inside of there that matches with you. And that's for anybody listening. Anybody in the Runway or Altitude group, go find those people that you resonate with, that you want to be a part of, and plug into them. And you guys bounce these ideas off each other and support each other. And that's all it is. It's mutual support. When somebody's in doubt or somebody's struggling, we're lifting them up. And everybody in the group will jump in and help you. So, good?
Awesome.
All right. So the E-Class Mercedes is up. It's back on the street. It's rolling. You're doing 150 miles an hour down the highway now. So I hope we got the E-Class out of the shop. And it's back on the road. So I'm excited to see. I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch inside the Facebook group for your posts. I'm going to expect you to engage, to jump in there, to ask questions, to get the validation that you need. And that's the key. That's how I became successful. All I did was, if you go back in that altitude group that we have in the Facebook group, once you get in there and join it, go back to 2016 and just look at all my stupid posts. You'll see me asking just ridiculous questions. But I was in there all the time. I was constantly asking questions. I was constantly validating what I was doing, my lists, things like that. Don't be afraid to do that stuff. Like, that's what it's for. So,
utilize the resources that are available to you. I think this is really,
that's
really,
it. I'd say max those out first, and then start looking for other options, because that's the key. A lot of people just don't know that there's so many things that are available to them in what they've paid for already to make sure you squeeze all the juice out of those, I don't know, lemons, oranges, whatever you want to squeeze the juice out before you go look for more and go buy more, frankly, because I see people buy programs all the time. They're just like buying programs, buying stuff. They see it. That's what I'm talking about. The podcast, somebody's always selling something. They're on the podcast, go grab it, go buy it. And they're not utilizing what they've already paid for. So that's it. So, okay. I enjoyed the time tonight. You're in Las Vegas right now, and you're sitting here with me. So I don't know if you need to go hit the slot machines or the craps table or what after this. What's the plan?
After this? Well, we still haven't had our dinner yet. So we're going to, it's 7 p.m. local. So we're going to go grab something to eat and then call it a day, prepare for the Monday tomorrow. I have my full day booked tomorrow, one-on-ones with all my staff members tomorrow. So
awesome. Well, I hope you go into it with a clear head, with a fresh vision, with confidence, because that's what your people need to see. They need to see a confident leader who knows where you're going and who's leading them. So, all right. Well, I thought you were going to be like hitting the craps table or something and making some big money, but hopefully you have a nice dinner and maybe you can roll a few dice. All right. Hey, it was really nice spending some time with you. I'm glad we did. And hopefully the listeners get a lot out of this. I think that they will in any situation they are. They could be doing a couple 100 houses and need this. They could have never done a house before, and I think they need this. So I enjoyed it. Hopefully everybody does too. So thanks for spending some time with me, and thanks for agreeing to do this. I was like pulling teeth to get you to do it. You called me a salesperson to get you to do this. So
you are really good at what you do. So, and I agree. I think people like, especially me, pushing them. It's not really pushing them, but nudging them, I think, in the right direction. Right. I only needed a nudge to come on this podcast. Right. It's not like it wasn't a tough. I don't think it was. Hopefully, it wasn't that tough to get me on. But
I said you can get on a coaching call with me for $2,000 an hour, or we can do it for free on the podcast. And he said, "You're a good business to business sales guy." So,
which is true.
Well, and then I tell you what actually got you on here was me saying that there's a lot of people that need to hear this message, not just you. And then he said, "Okay, I'll do it." So that was it, because I think that's it. Like what people don't understand is everything that we're going through right now, we're not reinventing the wheel. It's everybody's going through it. I've been through exactly what you're thinking. And that's why I wanted to share it with you. I wanted to get on my soapbox talking about the CPA. It just went right into my head when you were talking about it on Facebook Messenger. And I knew that we just needed to share this with whoever listens. Obviously we can't get across the whole world, but, that reminds me, like, guys, if you listen to this and you know somebody else that needs this, please share this podcast with them. Give it a rating. That's like currency for us in the podcaster world. Give it a rating, give it a review on iTunes, Stitcher, on YouTube. We're on YouTube now, the 7-Figure Flipping channel on YouTube. Just give us a review. Tell us what you think about it. Email us at info@houseflippinghq.com and just tell me that you like it. You're enjoying it. Thanks for putting it out, because that's the kind of stuff that drives me to get on here on a Sunday night at 9 p.m. to do this podcast and spend time with our members and bring it to you guys. So reach out to us. I'd love to hear it. It's definitely what keeps me going. And that's it. It's the only thing that keeps me going. So, all right. Had a good time tonight. Have fun in Vegas.
Thank you, Bill.
All right. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the 7-Figure Flipping Podcast with Bill Allen. If you want to grow and scale your house flipping or wholesaling business, check out more insider tips and strategies from the nation's most successful real estate investors at 7figureflipping.com.